love it. The calls.
You'll eventually get the 20% back. That Silver Connect card is going to pay her co-payments. Remicade, I believe, is an injectable, and her hospitalization co-payments. And tell them to turn his Part B on. All right. It's Michael Regan on this 28th day of March. Rainy day, I'll tell you. Producer Tom gives me the go-ahead. It's time to go. It's going to be an hour show. My topics today are going to be Stop the Hit. www.stopthehit. With everything that's going on with healthcare reform, with the Supreme Court right now, I felt it totally necessary to have this show, 28th of March, 2012 at 1:07, be about the health insurance tax. I am lucky enough to have really qualified callers from the coalition. One is going to be in D.C., and then Andrew Markowski will be calling in. DC's already on hold. This is awesome. All right. I have to plug my people, the Mattatuck Minute. Stephanie is going to give us a little update, and then we're going to have the coalition from DC as well as Connecticut discuss what's going on with healthcare reform, what some hidden taxes are. Of course, you can always call into the show, 203-757-1320. This is Medicare and You. This is Michael Regan. Stephanie, how are you? Producer.
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good. Jammin', hope you're doing great. Hope you actually saw the YouTube show that producer Nick did a phenomenal job, as usual, with. You and Bob Burns were great.
Thank you so much for having us on. We appreciate it. And, yes, thank you, Nick. We watched the YouTube video. It was a blast.
He's talented, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Producer Tom keeps the board flowing.
People.
Actually, producer Jasmine's doing a good job these days, too, but she's a little shy. She doesn't like the publicity. Okay. So, let's get a Mattatuck Minute, and how are you doing?
We're doing great over here. A lot of changes. We have the curators actually downstairs this very minute getting ready for an exhibit opening on April 1st.
Okay.
It's the Spirit of Music. It celebrates the Waterbury Chorale's 45 years of existence and the many great things they've done for Waterbury locally, nationally, and internationally. They've actually traveled overseas and represented Waterbury in their singing. So really excited about that exhibit.
And this is April 1st?
Yeah, it opens April 1st. It's up through the end of June, and we're actually doing a celebration for the exhibit at the end of April.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're actually, the chorale will be performing at the end of April at that event.
Okay, so you got the chorale on April 1st. And what about First Thursday? How's that coming?
Absolutely. We've got another one coming up on the 5th,
April
which
5th?
is next Thursday, 5:30, 7:30, like usual. And it's the Gomez and Sadlon Jazz Duo. They
actually came back.
Yeah, they were
right.
here last year. Yeah, they were phenomenal. We had a lot of people asking, when they were going to see them again. So they'll be here just over a week, next Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. That's Stephanie Harris with the Mattatuck Museum. Please join if you haven't. Go down and see the beautiful artwork. Bob Burns has already restored one of the curatorial showrooms. What's that, on the third floor, I believe?
Our Whittemore, our 19th century gallery on the second floor. Beautiful new color, new paintings up. Really a great job.
I think he called it Burnt Opal or something like that on the show.
Yeah, it's got a pretty cool name.
Yeah. You better study up on that for the next time.
I should.
Okay,
I will.
Stephanie, have a great Wednesday and appreciate your time.
Okay, have a good show. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. The show today is going to be about Stop the Hit. HIT is short for Health Insurance Tax. Do I have Amanda and Andrew on the line? This is Michael Regan.
Which one, D.C.?
Do I have D.C. or do I have Connecticut? Let's put them both in.
Okay.
Producer Tom, well done. Is this Amanda or is this Andrew?
This is Andrew, Michael. How are you?
Andrew, how are you, Mr. Markowitz? Markowski, excuse me.
That's okay. Doing well. How are you, sir?
Good. Okay, so I have Andrew E. Markowski of Gara and Markowski Government Relations on the phone. I was lucky enough to meet Andrew about a month back. He gave a seminar, and I was blown away. This gentleman is extremely intelligent. The whole concept of Stop the Hit is health insurance tax. So usually it's my show, and I talk about Medicare. This is for small businesses. This is an insurance talk show. Take it away, Andrew. Please, nice and slowly, explain what the purpose of Stop the Hit is, what the coalition is doing. I'll go over the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act later, but let's let my listeners, especially my small businesses, know. Take your time and inform them.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you. Well, I serve here in Connecticut as the state director for the National Federation of Independent Business, otherwise known as NFIB. And I know many of your listeners out there who are small business owners might be members of NFIB, but for those who are not NFIB members or haven't heard of us before, NFIB is Connecticut's as well as the nation's leading small business advocacy organization.
Okay.
We have offices in Hartford, Connecticut, and in all other 49 state capitals, as well as in Washington, D.C. And basically our mission is to protect and promote the right of our members, small business owners, to own, operate, and grow their businesses. Now, in doing so, we advocate on areas of important concern for NFIB members and all small business owners. And obviously, health insurance is a hot topic. Our members have been telling us that the cost of health insurance has been their number one concern, and any reform legislation needs to focus on that.
Okay.
So NFIB closely followed the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, as you know, and as we've spoken about before.
Of course.
And in following that legislation, we began to dig down into the details, and as we discussed, it's thousands of pages. Many members of Congress themselves have admitted that they didn't fully read or fully understand the legislation, and I doubt that many of your listeners have done so as well.
You know what? That's so true. I'll talk to a very well-educated person, and I'm like, well, did you read the bill? Did you? And they pretend like they did, but they really haven't even grasped any of it. I mean, this is obviously buried in there. The Congressional Budget Office confirmed that the hit would be passed along to consumers. We are lucky enough to have Andrew as well as Amanda. Andrew, do you mind if I link the calls in and you guys can let my listeners know the full spectrum of this?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. On another line, we have Amanda. Amanda, first of all, thank you so much for joining the show. This is Amanda. Do you want to give your last name for HIPAA reasons, or do you want to just remain Amanda?
No, it's fine. Amanda Austin.
Okay, Austin. Beautiful last name. Okay, Amanda Austin is calling from Washington, D.C. She is with the coalition. Stop the hit health insurance tax. We have Andrew Markowski on the other line, Amanda. Why don't you guys know each other?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we know each other well.
Yeah, all right. Well, so now you've got half hour. Let my listeners know this is totally open. Producer Nick, this is actually on television as well, Andrew and Amanda. So my producer Nick will have to stop us for a YouTube break. We also have sponsors we plug. You just stay on hold during the 2-minute commercial, and then you'll just keep rolling. When business takes you away, you just say, look, we've got to go. It's 1:40, but you've got the as much time as you want. Explain nice and slowly what this is, how it's buried in the Healthcare Reform Act, and why you think it's important that small businesses should be listening.
Great.
Right. Well, thank you,
Michael. As I said, NFIB is the nation's and Connecticut's leading small business advocacy organization, and as we dug down into the bill, thousands of pages, and as we talked about, hundreds of thousands of pages of subsequent regulations, we found this provision in there that's a health insurance tax. The HITs, we're calling it, and it's a tax on insurance companies, but
Right.
Specifically, the tax would impact small businesses and self-employed individuals. So that's why NFIB actually formed a coalition with many other business organizations to fight this tax. And we're joined in this coalition with many other groups representing a wide array of industries.
And I can tell you that, supporter,
they're part of it.
It's on the back of your kick-ass little stop the hit thing. I mean, the list from A to U.S. Chamber of Commerce is phenomenal. You've got a lot of support backing this bill.
We do, and we have support here in the state of Connecticut and as well as nationally in Washington D.C. And Amanda has been instrumental in working on the coalition, and she can sort of talk a little bit more about the coalition activities as well as some of the specifics of the hit.
Okay, you guys banter back and forth. I'm just letting you have open air, so go for it, whatever you want.
Great. Well, I think, Andy kind of teed it off well. I mean, obviously we've been talking a lot about health care reform for several years now, and the 2-year anniversary just passed for the health care law going into effect. It seems much longer than that.
It certainly has.
And what's really important on this issue is how it came to be and the background on it. A lot of discussion in the past about how to pay for any type of new health care reform coming down the pipe. And in particular, when this law was passed, Congress sat down and the writers sat down and thought about, well, how are we going to offset this health care law? And so, and it's important to note that this new health insurance tax really is just a pay for, if you will, for the health care law. There's no reform to it. There's no change in how you're going to see your policy written or a difference in your benefit design. It's purely and simply just a tax. It is about $87 billion over a 10-year budget window that we're looking at that small business and individuals are going to have to pay for their health insurance. And really, if we boil that down, it's really about $500 per employee for a business. And we believe that that's a pretty conservative estimate.
Definitely. No, the numbers are clear. It's $87 billion in assessments between 2014 and a 5-year span between 2014 and 2019. You've done your logarithms. You've done your homework.
Right. Well, and, I think the health care law is such a large animal. People are confused. There's a lot of uncertainty about things. Things go into effect in different years. And so, really trying to educate people through this coalition effort has been part of my job and Andy's job, specifically to say, hey, look, in 2014, which is right around the corner, this tax is going to hit you in the face, and you need to be prepared, and it's going to raise your premium cost. And so we kind of sat back and thought, well, it's on the books now, unless the Supreme Court, of course, strikes it down, which is very possible.
Well, that's why it's the topic du jour here, and this is perfect.
Yeah, topic du jour. So we thought, why not set up a coalition to really kind of work around repealing this specific provision on small business. We think it's hugely egregious, and it targets just small business because self-funded plans, large businesses, are exempted out of this tax. So, it's a real competitive issue when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it.
Right.
And so, we started this coalition effort about a year ago, and we got 2 bills introduced, one in the House, H.R. 1370 for your listeners out there.
Yeah, take your time. This is what it's about. It's education here. Take your time.
Right. And in the Senate, it is S 1880. And, as everybody knows, it takes a while to kind of build momentum behind legislation, and we've just kind of been doing the shoe leather on this repeal bill, taking it up to the Hill and telling members of Congress, hey, look, I've got 25 employees. This is going to cost me $500 per employee. I'm looking now at about, roughly $13,000 of new costs before I even think about anything else. Now, how exactly are you helping me with affordability if that's the cost I'm facing? And
that was the original premise behind the actual Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, that it was going to lower the premiums. We're clearly seeing it's not.
No, it's not. And, in fact, it's the opposite. And I think that what we really had to take a look at when we kind of comb through the 2,000 pages is, okay, what are some of the most egregious provisions in this health care law that we need to attack?
Right.
And the health insurance tax was at the top. We even recently did a job loss study, because I think people, with this economy and the uncertainty that business owners are feeling, with state budgets in the tank, we're looking at anywhere from possibly, if this stays into effect over a 10-year window, anywhere from 125,000 jobs lost to 250,000 job loss, most conservative estimates over a 10-year window. And, that's exactly the opposite of what we think the economy needs these days.
Going back to the shoe leather comment, Andrew Markowski is pounding the pavement with his knowledge, sharp as a tack dressed, out there educating people. This is not just some fly-by-night organization. You're in D.C. taking the time out of your busy day to educate the consumer. This is something you're making a concerted effort to make sure it's getting out there.
You're absolutely right, Michael.
Andrew, you did a phenomenal job that day.
Well, thank you, and I'm appreciative that you're helping spread the word, because
that's why I'm here.
This is an important issue, and it's how much of our economy here in Connecticut, as well as the nation, depends on small business. I mean, we talk about this all the time, that small businesses here in Connecticut are responsible for the vast majority of all new jobs. Right. But when we see a provision of legislation that targets small businesses, and that's certainly unfair, and that's exactly what this health insurance tax does, NFIB and others that we've enlisted to help with this coalition are going to go after it. Now, I talk to small business owners here in Connecticut, and some of your listeners might be tuning in and saying, well, this
actually,
is all well and good.
Actually, the board's lit up. We just can't take calls because you and Amanda would get kicked out. This is a hot topic.
That is so encouraging to hear, because you know what, people often say, well, you know what, I hear you, we believe in your message, we thank you for everything you're doing, fighting on behalf of small business, fighting to stop the hit, but can this really be done? Will Congress really listen? And, not to really change topics, but you and I spoke about this before. NFIB has a proven track record of being able to repeal legislation that we think unfairly targets our members, in particular some provisions that were included in part of the thousands of pages of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. And, Amanda, one thing that I often touted here was NFIB's success in repealing the 1099 provision that was included in the law, and just use that by way of example to say, you know what, we look at this, we're going to attack it piecemeal, break it apart, and if the listeners out there and the small business owners out there are willing to get engaged and to take action on this issue, we can certainly help guide them. And one way we can do that, obviously, is by directing people to the website stopthehit.com, where they can get updates, they can sign a petition, send a letter to their members of Congress here in Connecticut, Congressman Murphy in the greater Waterbury area in the 5th District, as well as our two U.S. senators, Senator Lieberman and Senator Blumenthal.
Right. Okay, so now this is what I was referring to. Producer Nick, Producer Tom's giving me the break. We've got to plug the sponsors who actually pay for the show. We'll be back in a couple minutes with Andrew Markowski and Amanda Austin.